Good afternoon. It's Monday the 30th of July. It's just getting on for 20 to 2 and I've come out for a spot of carp fishing today. This will be my second trip out since I've had my operation. I had a trip over to the river which was fairly uneventful but very pleasant, and I thought I'd come back to carp fishing now for a little while. I've come over to a local club water where there's some good fish in here that go up plus 30. There's a few 30s in here, a good number of 20s, but obviously there's the usual number of smaller fish as well, but it's the bigger ones I'm after. Weather's much different today. As you know, we've had sort of best part of a month plus of hot sunny weather. And when I got over here, they've asked everybody to dip the nets from now on, and also they've had aerators out in the two lakes because obviously they've had a bit of a problem with algae and oxygen levels. Carp have been up on the surface for a long time, people chasing them about on the surface and not using unhooking mats and so forth, so they put a few new signs up. Anyway, there's not too many people here today, so I was able to have a good lap of the lake. What normally happens when you come here, the trouble is there's so many people fish these places. That's why I don't normally tend to bother doing this sort of thing, because you're restricted to where you want to fish. You know, the fish might all be down one end of the lake, but normally everybody and his mates down there, so you can't get on and you end up having to sit up the other end of the lake where there's no fish and you're not going to do any good. But there's one now. Speak of the devil, just lumping out just there. So just hold on, because I just want to put some baits on that. Ooh. You have to excuse that minor interruption. I just saw a fish lump out about halfway across, and I wanted to get a rod on it a bit quick and a bit of bait. Right, anyway, as I was saying, the usual thing when I come to places like this, the reason why I don't fish them too often is because you're restricted to where you can fish. There's always, oh, alarm going off somewhere. There's always somewhere where the fish are concentrated, everybody else is fishing there, and unfortunately you can't get down that end of the lake and have to go up the other end of the lake. But there's not many people here today, so I'm able to pick and choose where I want to go, more or less. Afternoon, you alright? And I did a lap of the lake, as I was saying, and when I came around to this particular part here, I saw some fish out towards the island. I'll pan the camera around a bit later and you can see, but they're not right up tight against the back of the island. They're further this way, probably about 40 yards off of the island, but they're definitely lumping out, so that tells me that they're definitely feeding on something, probably sparked off by this cooler weather that we've had. So there's another one that has just lumped out there now. It's just where the dark water meets the light. So I've made up one rod already, and I was going to originally fish one rod in the margins close in, because you can catch some good fish from the margins here, and I might do later on. I'll keep a spot baited there close in and move one rod a bit later on in the day too there. And on that particular rod, it's just my usual sort of ounce inline lead, coated braid hook link, and a size 10 hook, which is my sort of favourite setup. But because I'm going out towards the island here, and it's probably 100 yards, I should think, judging from here, a good 100 yards, might be a little bit more. I've set up a helicopter rig. I've got a 2 ounce Alice bomb on there, what's an RC bomb, some of you are saying. Or tournament lead as they're called now. And then on here, same thing, helicopter style. I've got a coated braid hook link, stripped off to about 5mm just to give me that bit of flexibility. I've got a size 10 barbless hook on there, and I'm fishing 15mm bait on there. And with me today I've got a load of 15mm. I've got 15mm pop-ups with me as well, which I might try shortly if I don't do any good on the bottom baits. And I've brought some small 12mm with me for loose feeding at the margins. Anyway, so now that I've seen a few fish, I'm going to get a rod out there, and what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to fish stringers on here because of the distance. I didn't bring the throwing stick with me, it's too far to catapult baits out, so I'm going to fish stringers on here, which I'm quite happy with, to be honest. Right, without further ado, I'm going to get a rod out. Right, let's get a rod out towards the island. That'll do. Just let that sink and settle a moment. Almost there. It's trouble in the crosswind, it pulls off quite a bow of line, it takes you a little while to get back in touch with it, but I think we're about there now. Right, fingers crossed. Got a little bit of a nibble on this rod here, although I think it's possibly a bream or something. I just brought the other one in, I was just changing over to a pop-up. Oh, let's tighten back up to that one moment. There we go, probably a bream I should think. Yeah, definitely not fighting very hard. Not even a big bream by the feel of it. I know there is a lot in here, so I suspect they take quite a bit of getting past. I've already caught one earlier. Just putting up a little bit of resistance at the net, but it is very small. Come on. And he's got off. All by himself, wasn't he clever? I was just making tea. I've just had a bit of a liner on the right hand rod. A few fish jumping still, and the chap over there has just caught one. That's the first fish I've seen caught since I've been here, so fingers crossed. I still think I'm in the right area and I've made the right decision by the number of fish I've seen jumping. I think it's just a matter of time before I get one. Still sticking with one rod at the moment, about halfway out, where I've seen some fish jump, and I've got the other one further, about 40 yards off of the island, where I've seen a few more, including a very, very good fish. And I'm still baiting up in the margin here under the bush for a little bit later on. We've just got to hope that the fish agree with me. It's nice to be able to bring the stove and the kettle for a change. Makes for a far better tasting cup of tea. I'm just baiting up the margin spot again. The fish definitely are getting closer, the wind's coming in towards me, and they are moving across on this wind, and I would expect them later on to be much further over this way. I've just brought the margin rod in. I'm just going to put that out again. It's nothing you haven't seen before, because I use it in an awful lot of my fishing for close to medium range work, to be honest. And basically it's just a 1 ounce lead, an anti-tangle sleeve, got about 6 inches of coated braid on there. I'm fishing a pop-up, so I've actually got a split shot. I used to use tungsten putty, but I get fed up with it coming off the line all the time, so I tend to use split shots now. They work equally as well for me. There's a pop-up on there, but as I said, I'm fishing stringers. I'm throwing in a few loose baits. But here's something I do every now and again that works quite well as a change. Instead of fishing your stringer in a 2, 3, 4 bait stringer in a line, like most people do, occasionally I make up a little ring of them using the smaller baits in the main, and then what I'll do is I'll then attach that I don't get my hook through it. I'll attach that, and then when that drops down on the bottom, I have that little ring sitting there, and the pop-up sits just above them. It's just something a little bit different, something that fish don't tend to see all the time, and quite often that's what gets you the bites, is doing something a little bit different to what everybody else does. Anyway, I'm going to put this rod back in. So as I said, I've got that little string of baits on there, and I'm just going to put that out in the margin here. I'm not very far out from the edge. I'm probably no more than about, I should think, 8 metres or 8-9 yards. Just feel that down, and then I'll back lead that as well. Awful lot of that green algae on the surface here. Obviously with the heat it's really caused a bloom. There we are. And I'll just put a few loose baits around that as well. Keep topping it up. I do every sort of half an hour or so with just half a dozen or so small baits and 1 or 2 15 mils, because there are bream, there are tench, there are roach that are in here nibbling away at the baits all the time. Seagulls. He just got one actually. Where does it come from, eh? And he got that one too. You wouldn't believe it. So did that duck. The easiest way is to throw several in. They can only get one of them then. Ooh, just had a bit of a drop back then while I was up the bank. Right, we're in. Didn't think it'd be too long. That one went quite a way. That was in on the margin rod here. Oh, that's putting a good bend in. I've literally just put those rods back out, brought them back in, put pop-ups on each rod because I wasn't seeming to get anything on the bottom baits, and off she went. I don't think it's particularly big, but it's the first fish for a little while, and it will certainly be from this lake. It will be the first fish I've caught from this lake. I've not carp fished on here before. I've only fished for tench and crucians. Made a nice swirl then as it just sort of took off. I think it's woke up a little bit. I did guess that with this wind pushing into this bank, this is why I came over here. Although I've seen a lot of fish around the back of the island there. Oh, that is going well now. But I guess that they would come across and into this bank. This is on the 1 ounce inline. And so you don't always have to use heavy leads to get good bites and good hook holds. Most important thing is having a sharp hook. I'd backleaded both rods as well to try and avoid tangles. Looks like a mirror. Let's go and get tangled up in the microphone cable here a minute with the rod butt. Oh, it's not a bad one. It'll certainly do for me. Not quite done yet though. Yeah, I certainly think we might have a double here. Which will do to start. Right, I think it's getting somewhere near. Got to be careful because I can't kneel down at all at the moment still. Oh, trust me to find the only bramble in the hedgerow. Oh, I think he's got other ideas. Yes, he's certainly woken up a little bit now. Keep the rod up, let the rod do all the work. Tackle's balanced throughout, so I never worry about playing fish hard. Alright, not done yet. Come on. Don't go around the other rod. Now, here we are. Almost ready. As I said, keep the rod up, let the rod do the work. Rod is a shock absorber, that's what it's for. Anytime I drop mine to the side is when I'm trying to turn a fish from going into snags and stuff. Don't see the point otherwise. Right, yeah, looks like a very long mirror. There we go, and he's ours. And so for my first fish, on my first outing. That will do beautifully. Oh, just got to watch that, lead's just caught in the net there. Right, I'm going to leave that to rest one moment. Whew. And I'll get the scales ready. It's a very pretty fish. That will certainly do for me. Right, I'm going to sort everything out. So I'm doing it like this because, as I said, I can't kneel down at the moment, but that's 15.6, so first fish of the day, first fish for a few weeks because I haven't been able to get out. I'm quite happy with that. I'll just turn it round, have a look at the other side. There we go. Pretty fish, bit of a damaged mouth on one side, but beautiful scale pattern, long and lean. Let's put it back. Well, that was quite pleasing. It's just 15.56, so I had that about 10 minutes ago now, and as I said, right in at the margin. It's amazing how many people do ignore the margins, not just on this water, but a lot of waters of fish. They all seem to want to cast to the horizon all the time, thinking it's better. But I've probably caught more fish out the margins than I ever really have at long range, to be honest. And it's been well documented, so do a lot of other people. So it's one of the areas the fish will always patrol, and certainly sometime during the day, if not a couple of times during the day, they'll patrol those marginal shelves. So for those that are new to the sport, don't think that you've got to be getting rods and going out 100, 120 yards just to catch fish. You haven't. You'll catch more fish at under 100 yards than you ever will in excess of 100 yards. And you always want to try and keep a rod in the margin, or certainly keep a margin spot baited, and at certain points throughout the day, even if you've got both rods a bit further out, bring one in now and again and drop it in there for, even if you drop it in for just 15 minutes at a time, and then put it back out, and then an hour or two later drop it back in, but keep that spot baited all the time. A few baits going in every now and again, and it's amazing what it will produce for you. I'm actually hiding up the bank at the moment because quite a heavy rain shower has come down about 5-10 minutes ago and is persisting. So I'm under the cover of the trees, or what bit of cover there is, to be honest. It's blowing through here quite a bit. Wasn't really expecting this today. Well, I think I'm going to call it a day. We had that rain come, and then there's been these huge clouds of that green algae bloom has come up following the rain, and is blowing down. Seems to have killed all surface activity. There's no fish nutting out. It's quite quiet, to be honest. Everybody else seems to have deserted apart from one chap up there, and a new chap's just turned up over there. But out of the 3 of us that were here fishing, we only had 1 fish each. I saw the chap over there catch one, the one over there catch one, and that's been it. Been quite quiet this afternoon. Not as I expected. I thought I'd perhaps get a few more fish, but that's how it goes. Still, it's been great to get out and have a few hours, so I've quite enjoyed myself. So as I said, 2 bream, the 1 carp, and Nothing else, unfortunately. I'm surprised I didn't even get any more bream, because normally once you start catching the bream you tend to get pestered by them, but I only had the 2. So quite grateful for small mercies. I do like bream, but only when I like to fish for them. Anyway, I'm going to wrap the vlog up here now and start making tracks, because I'm looking over the back. The sky's gone real black again now. It looks like there's more rain coming down, and I don't see the point of hanging on and getting soaked. So until the next time, once again, thank you very much for watching, and all the best with your angling.